Hello there. I am back from a 21-day North Atlantic cruise. And in this video, I'm going to take you on a whirlwind tour of my 2-day adventure in Edinburgh, Scotland. And I hope I pronounced that right. I have a good friend in the UK, and it's being pointed out to me that I say a lot of the different places wrong. So I am working on it. I'll share with you in this video where I went in those 2 days, what I did, and some of the things that I would love to have done and will do the next time I return to Edinburgh, Scotland. Just in case you're new to this channel, my name is Debbie Morton. I am recently widowed and I am a solo nomad entrepreneur, although on this particular trip I was traveling with a partner, and I would absolutely love it if you would like, subscribe, comment, and follow along with me on some of my journeys. Let me begin by saying that 2 days in Edinburgh, Scotland is not nearly enough time. But because I was on this cruise, we only had 2 days in port. And actually, I'm really grateful that we had 2 days because most of the stops that we made, we just had an afternoon. And there was just so much to see here that I'm glad we had 2 days. I did talk to the captain and the crew and asked if they would let us stay longer, but they said no. So 2 days was all I got. From the cruise ship, we took a tender over to the pier. And the very first magical moment that happened when we got off the tender boat was we stepped off the boat to some Scottish music, a bagpipe player and a drummer. And here's a quick little listen to what that was like. I don't know what it is about bagpipe music, but it always makes me happy. And I just wanted to stop and listen to every bagpipe player I saw for as long as I possibly could. Once I got past the bagpipe players, my first impression of Edinburgh, Scotland was absolutely jaw-dropping. The architecture is unbelievable. All of the historic buildings, and everywhere you turn, there was just incredible beauty and architecture. And honestly, seriously, it was like stepping into a fairy tale is kind of how it felt to me. I quickly learned upon arriving in Edinburgh that the heart of the city starts with a place called the Royal Mile. And the Royal Mile is a historic street that stretches from the Palace of Holyrood house at one end of the Royal Mile all the way to the Edinburgh Castle, which is at the other end of the Royal Mile. And the Royal Mile is packed with tourists, restaurants, bars, shops, museums. There's some cathedrals. There's lots of bagpipe players along the Royal Mile, as well as a whole bunch of other street performers, just like this guy that we stopped and watched for a little while. He was funny, he was talented, and he was juggling with fire, which made it really, really exciting. One of the first stops that we made once we were walking along the Royal Mile was at, I hope I pronounce this correctly, let me know in the comments if I don't, but I think it's St Giles Cathedral, and it's located right on the Royal Mile. And this stunning building dates back over 900 years. The architecture is mind-blowing. So from outside this structure, there's a distinctive crown steeple in a very Gothic type of look. And it was added to the cathedral around the 15th century. And right now it's an architectural feature that's prominent all around the Edinburgh skyline. When you step inside the cathedral, you're going to find intricate woodwork and carvings that's just unbelievable. There's amazing stonework featuring symbolic representations of Scottish history and the legends. There's also a ton of beautiful stained glass and numerous memorials and monuments that are dedicated to some of the notable Scots, including writers, theologians, and military figures. In front of the cathedral, there is a heart-shaped mosaic, and that heart-shaped mosaic marks the location of Old Tolbooth, which was the administrative center of Edinburgh, and it was the place where there were public executions and imprisonment. And the most famous person executed at Old Tolbooth was a man named Deacon William Brodie. He was a respected cabinet maker by day and a notorious burglar by night. And his double life is what inspired the book by Robert Louis Stevenson's The Characters of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And there's currently a bar and restaurant named Brodie's that is very, very close to the cathedral. I think it's across the street. And I'm going to put up here this is what is on the outside of that restaurant wall. Feel free to pause this video so you can read the inscription, because the very last sentence is kind of a twist to the story. After touring the cathedral, we walked all the way down the Royal Mile to the very, very end, and we took a tour of the Palace of Holyrood Place. And this is the official residence of all of the British monarch in Scotland, and it is well worth taking a tour. This palace has been the home to centuries of royalty within Scotland. And most interesting to me was the history of Mary, Queen of Scots. And as you go through the castle, you get to see her private rooms, her bedroom, her sitting room. You learn all about her life and her death, and you learn about some of the different tragedies that took place. She had a secretary assistant named David who was brutally murdered in front of her, and so you learn about that story as well. The palace is still used today by current royalty, and each year they host a huge festival, and over 8,000 guests come to the palace. And on this tour, you see where the guests are hosted, not only inside of the palace, but also out in these spectacular gardens. I think there's like 10 acres of gardens that are maintained outside the castle. Also included in the tour of the Holyrood house is Holyrood Abbey. And Holyrood Abbey is a cathedral that was founded in 1128, and it's now in ruins and no longer used, but it's obvious that it was absolutely spectacular back in its day. And it was just amazing to stand in the midst of that and just see the architecture that it came from 1128. It was just incredible. And by the way, the photos that I am showing inside of this video, for the most part, are only photos taken from the outside. In the palace, as well as many other tours that I've taken in my journeys, pictures are not allowed inside. And so unfortunately, I'm not able to show you what it looked like inside of the palace, but I am able to share some of the pictures from the outside. After touring the palace, we got a quick bite to eat. And while we were eating, it started to rain. So we ducked into a free museum that is on the Royal Mile. And it was actually, for a free museum, it had way more information and artifacts and just incredible stories and history than I would have ever expected. After touring the museum, the rain had stopped and we made a beeline back to the cruise ship. On the second day, we returned back to the Royal Mile, and we were there for a prepaid tour of Edinburgh Castle. And fortunately, we had pre-purchased tickets for this castle because they were sold out on the day that we arrived, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. But the castle is an incredible sight from the city. And also, when you're at the castle, there are incredible views of the city that are absolutely breathtaking. If you go to Edinburgh and you tour the castle, make sure you allocate a lot of time because there is so much to see there. There is an incredible war museum along with tons of historic sites such as the hospital and a walk through the prison that was used for many, many, many years. There's also a cute little dog cemetery that would be really, really easy to miss, except that we had headphones for the tour around the castle, and this dog cemetery was mentioned. So it's easy to miss the little dog cemetery. Also, there is the Great Hall. I was able to take pictures inside of that, so I'll share a few pictures inside the Great Hall. Also on the grounds of the castle, you'll find St. Margaret's Chapel, which is the oldest surviving structure in Edinburgh, and you can actually go inside the chapel. And then next to the chapel sits a beautiful war memorial. It's a gigantic building that was opened in 1927, and it pays a beautiful tribute to all of the soldiers that were killed during the war. And also, as you tour the castle grounds, you're going to find the crown jewels. And again, since there's no photos allowed, you're just going to have to trust me that they are absolutely incredible. There is a line to get into the place where the crown jewels are kept. They're inside of a very, very secure location, and they kind of file you single file through there, but it's well worth waiting in the line to go through and take a peek at them. There were two kind of unexpected things that were happening when I toured the castle. Actually, one of them was expected, the other one was unexpected. Every August, there is an event called the Tattoo. And the Tattoo is where the absolute best of the best bagpipe bands perform. And it takes place right outside the castle. In fact, the bands come out of the castle gates. And so when we were there, they were setting up all of the grandstands. And I have to say, after visiting Edinburgh this time, I am super excited to attend the tattoo. I won't be able to do it this year in August, but I'm looking forward to getting tickets to attend the event in August of 2025. The other completely unexpected thing is it was Queen Camilla's birthday on the day that we were there. And because of her birthday, there was a big celebration. They had a marching bagpipe band. They had a whole bunch of dignitaries that were there for a celebration. And normally at the castle, each afternoon, there is they fire one cannon. Because it was her birthday and because of the celebration, they actually had a 21 gun salute done with 3 cannons that they set up. And so that was pretty incredible. And while we were in touring the War Museum, there was an employee that came in and just said, hey, if you want to see the 21 gun salute, you're going to want to make your way out into the main area. And they showed us where to go. And so that was something that was unexpected, and it was really pretty cool to see, the dignitaries, to have the marching band there, and to watch the 21 cannon salute. And finally, this is kind of a funny thing that happened, but I will share this warning based on something that we saw as we were walking through the streets of Edinburgh one morning. We were walking along, and a huge bird just swooped out of nowhere, and it grabbed a package off of a table of some people who were dining outside. And the bird flew off with the package, and a sandwich dropped out. So the bird picks up the sandwich from the middle of the street, and once he starts eating he or she, once that bird starts eating the sandwich, it was attracting a whole bunch of other birds, and things got really exciting. And so ultimately, the whole pack of birds flew off with the sandwich as they were all fighting and arguing over the sandwich. But I turned to the gentleman who was sitting at the table whose sandwich disappeared with this bird. And it was funny because he just shakes his head and he's like, they warned us. They warned us not to leave it sitting on the table. So let that be kind of a little lesson, whether you're sitting on the streets of Edinburgh or anywhere where there are birds overhead. If you leave food on the table, it can disappear like that. My 2 days in Edinburgh was an absolute whirlwind of history and culture and incredible sights. Every time you turn the corner, there was just something else that makes you go, wow. And in this video, I barely scratched the surface because every moment I spent there was absolutely unforgettable. There are a few more things that I would love to do. As I mentioned, I would love to go. I am planning on going to Tattoo next year. If I were there longer, here's a few other things I do, and I'll share this with you only because I didn't get to do them, but maybe it's something that you'd like to do. I would take the hop-on, hop-off bus tour. In my Nomad travels, one of the things I love to do every time I get to a new place is take the hop-on, hop-off bus because I feel like it gives you a great overview of the history, and as it shares information about the different sites you drive by, it gives an idea of what you might want to go back to and tour in greater detail. The other thing I would love to do next time I go is to hike up, I think it's Calton Hill. It is a hill in the city that you can climb to the top of, and my understanding is there's some incredible views from on top of that hill, and there is a national monument that was never completed, but the ruins of that sit on top of that hill as well. So those are two things that I would like to do when I go back. And again, there's so many museums and more places to walk around and things to see. And also next time I go back to Edinburgh, I also plan to get outside of the city and see some of the different outlying countryside. One of the places that the cruise stopped was the Isle of Skye, and I'm looking forward to going back there as well. I don't know how far the drive is from Edinburgh to Isle of Skye. I'll figure it out, and I do plan on doing that next time I am there. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure through Edinburgh, Scotland. Don't forget to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button, totally free, and you'll be notified next time I post a video. I appreciate you following along in my journeys, and until next time, I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.